Welcome back to a wonderful, wonderful day at First Things First. We're in the middle of predictions week, and this is day 2. Now, reminder, these predictions are set in stone, and we will be staked to them for the rest of the year. So you can't, for example, pick the Bengals to win and then abandon them after they start 2-3 and then hop back on the bandwagon because you're, quote, from Ohio.
If you're from Cincinnati, whilst I know the bylaws, if you're from Cincinnati, you can do that.
Hypothetically. We will predict every conference, every award, and every playoff game, and we start today with the AFC North. Nick, take it away.
All right, worst to first, number 4 in the AFC. It's a team with the worst coach and the worst quarterback. It's very simple. It is the Cleveland Browns. I do not think, the worst quarterback in the division. Deshaun Watson from Houston 3 years ago is not walking back through that door. And the Browns, I do not believe in. And the Browns are going to have some real soul searching to do when this year they still don't get the reward of having a bad team because that pick is still going to the Houston Texans. Number 3. Missing the playoffs, the Baltimore Ravens.
Wow.
I'm happy Lamar got his money. I don't know that the offensive stylistic change is going to be what works best for the Ravens. Also, for the first time in seemingly a decade, the Ravens' defense is a major question mark. I have the Ravens as one of those, my gosh, the AFC's tough. The Ravens missed the playoffs. Coming in second, the Cincinnati Bengals. I do think they are obviously a playoff team. However, I do not think they have a gaudy regular season. I do think some of their losses in free agency on defense hurt them. And I don't think this really will matter unless it does. I guess I'm the only person still curious. Where's Joe Burrow contract extension? Been waiting for a Joe Burrow contract extension. Hasn't happened. They did release Trevor Siemian today, which makes you think Joe Burrow should be available in week 1, which is good news for them. And then winning the division, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The argument for the Steelers is very simple. Last year, they had a rookie quarterback, and they had their best player miss 7 games, and they won 9 of them. This year, if you assume TJ Watt's not going to miss 7 games, Kenny Pickett, even if he's not going to be as perfect as he was in the preseason, I do think he'll be better than he was in year 2. Most quarterbacks get a year 2 bump, except for, of course, McCorkle Jones. But most guys get better. You got to like George Pickens. You have to love Mike Tomlin. I think the Steelers win the division and get back to the postseason. There's my AFC North.
Ooh, wow. Okay. Let's start worst to first. We agree. I hate to say
that's your team.
Because I am from Cleveland, and I do expect improvement. I'm higher on Deshaun Watson than you are. I think he'll play well. The offensive line obviously is great. They got skill position players. Like I like Stefanski more than you do, Nick. But it is a great conference, and I think this is the best division in football. And there's going to be, I said yesterday, I don't think Miami makes the playoffs. So there are going to be a couple of good teams that miss the playoffs, more than a couple. And I think the Browns will be one of them. At number 3, though, the Steelers. And in the playoffs. Yes, I am going with a 3-play. I didn't think I would, but I like the Steelers. All right, I really do. You mentioned it. Last year, they were without,
TJ Watt. 7 games.
And look, this is how good Mike Tomlin's great. There's no doubt about it. For him to win 9 games last year with TJ Watt out, and their quarterback play was, we talked about the Jets, how bad it was. Theirs was bad too, and I don't mean that Pickett's not going to be good, but last year they had 12 total touchdown passes on the team.
Yeah.
And one of them was thrown by a receiver, Chase Claypool. And they had 14 interceptions and still won 9 games. I think Pickett's going to be greater. I think George Pickens is fantastic. Yeah. So I think he's going to have a huge year. Fire move, I like him too. Run game is good. So I think the Steelers make the playoffs. Number 2, the Bengals. Look, I strongly considered not putting them in the playoffs.
Wow.
But Burrow looks like he'll be back sooner than later. And I think he's just too good along with Jamar Chase. Offensive line, I think, will be a little better. They added your boy, Nick Orlando Brown Jr. I think they start 0-2, though. They haven't won in Cleveland since 2017. And then they have Baltimore, but then they can run off at least 4 straight wins. So they'll be back in the saddle. And at number 1, the Baltimore Ravens. I love the Ravens this year. I think Lamar Jackson's going to be, he's excited. He's got his contract. He's excited about the new offense. it's supposed to be like what he did in Louisville more. So obviously we know he was great in college at Louisville. The receiving core is the best he's had. It's not one of the best in the league or one of the top five, but it's the best he's had. And the defense, look, I know it looks like they might be down a bit, but they've been in the top 10 in defense 6 of the last 7 years. Yep. So I think they'll figure it out. I got Baltimore.
All right, we're going to get to the Ravens in a second. Here are all the predictions. Coach, I want to dial in on the Steelers. Both of you guys mentioned T.J. Watt. Here's the numbers, specifically 8-2 with, 1-6 without. Point differentials up, turnover differential yards. Obviously different. The yards, man, I'd get a bigger contract. I would take this full screen and go right and sit back down. So, Coach, do you buy the Steelers are a playoff team?
Not necessarily. Look, I was impressed with the way that they finished last year, and I think that Kenny Pickett got a lot of his interceptions out in the early part of his starts and did much better towards the latter part of the season, but he wasn't very productive offensively. It wasn't prolific by any stretch. Nope. I mean, I feel good about where I am in relationship to Nick because I think his predictions are completely wrong. So that makes me feel better. and the Browns are going to cause a lot of problems in that division, and that's where the Pittsburgh could benefit because the Browns could upset some of these other teams. And it's going to be hard for whoever ends up winning it. The struggle that I have with the Steelers, as well coached as they are, I don't know if they have enough offensively to match these other teams. And Nick kills, Deshaun Watson, but says Baker Mayfield can get back to form. He kills the Bengals because they haven't given their quarterback a contract extension. I get how I kind of get how he's getting to Pittsburgh winning the division, but it's sort of like the vibe check. It's all over the place.
Can I defend myself for a moment? It's very simple to get to the Steelers winning the division. They won 9 games. Their best player missed half of them, and they started a rookie quarterback. Any first-round quarterback that's worth anything, and I don't think Pickett's going to be great, but if he's worth anything, will get considerably better in year 2, and Tomlin is awesome. I think Cincinnati's going to be good. I just think that the Steelers will be better.
And that contract is obviously holding them back. I mean, they're obviously not.
Well, I'm just curious. I just don't know. Everybody said Joe Burrow was getting a contract as soon as Justin Herbert got his. And I'm just waiting for it. That's all I'm saying. Sure. I'm just waiting for it.
All right, Coach, the other big prediction here is the Ravens. Nick, pessimistic that this whole change in style is going to benefit Baltimore. Brou, super optimistic. Odell, Zay Flowers, etc. Which is more likely, miss or make the playoffs?
I'm much more on the pessimistic side, and I think Greg Roman was the best fit for Lamar Jackson. When you look at Lamar's first 2 years as a starter, he had 62 touchdowns, and I think it was like 15 interceptions or something along those lines. And the last 2 years, he's had 50% less touchdowns and 30% more interceptions. And now you're going to take and say, we're going to put more of the passing game on his shoulders, where when he was most successful was when he was a running threat first, and everything built off that to the passing game. Now you're gonna completely reverse that trend, and I don't think it's going to give him the results that they're hoping for by any stretch.
I think he'll still run. Like this notion that he's not going to run, it's going to take away his best attribute. That would be a tragedy if they did that. So I think if he can throw it outside the numbers consistently, that's just going to open up more holes for him to run through. So I think he's going to have a big year.
But Chris, the problem is when you do it as a pass-first offense, you take that extra defender out of the box. When the quarterback is a runner and you have to deal with that threat and you've got that defender in the box, it opens up things so much more offensively from a passing game perspective. And now if you're going to make him a passer first, you don't have to commit that same defender and you can do more things. That's where I think you take away an advantage that you have with who he is.
All right, prediction week rolls on. NFC North, Vikings 13-3 last year. Kirk Cousins, star of quarterback, second star probably, was sitting in his car with things hooked up to his head. This year they're not even favored. That goes to the Lions, who have won 8 of their last 10 games. Nick, what do you got?
Number 4. Chicago Bears. Bears, trendy pick. Could they make the playoffs? Could they have the league MVP? No. No, they actually couldn't. Neither one of those has any chance of happening. I do think they are potentially moving in the right direction, but it's a lot of movement to go from a 10-game losing streak and the number one pick of the draft to the postseason. And I know they didn't draft number one, but they had the number one pick of the draft. They traded it away, so they're coming in fourth. In third, regression is coming for the Minnesota Vikings. Undefeated in one-score games, the biggest comeback in the regular season in NFL history, a terrible defense that got exposed by Daniel Jones in the postseason. I love Justin Jefferson. This is Kirk Cousins' last year with the Vikings, and this is the Vikings' first year, well, not first year, but the Vikings back out of the playoffs. In the playoffs, though, for the first time in quite some time, the Detroit Lions, they are in the postseason. The reason I am not quite as high on the Lions as some is I don't think things will be quite as perfect as they were for Goff last year. Goff, when he has a clean pocket, when he's not pressured, is excellent. The moment he's pressured, he turns into a pumpkin. I think he'll be pressured a bit more this year, but I still think they'll be able to get one more win they did last year and get into the postseason. And then, speaking of vibes, Coach, best vibes in the league.
Best vibes.
Green Bay Packers.
True.
Good young talent at wide receiver. Good running game. An underrated defense. A chip on their shoulder, a coach that has, as far as through 3 years of his coaching career, one of the best winning percentages in NFL history, and a quarterback who has got to sit and learn for years. Will he be great? No. Will he be as good as Aaron was last year? That's not that hard. I like the Green Bay Packers as kind of the scorned X winning the division.
Wow. Okay. Well, mine is kind of similar, to be honest. At number 4, I'm with you on the Bears. Justin Fields has been the most sacked quarterback since he got into the league. 3.5 sacks a game. He's enduring. So I think he'll be better. And I think, like you said, they might be moving in the right direction, but they're far away from the playoffs in my view. At number 3, Minnesota. I'm with you there. Because last year you said they were undefeated in the one-score games, 11-0 in one-score games. They tied an NFL record by winning 8 games that they trailed in the fourth quarter. Some people might look at that as, they got moxie. Yeah. They got poise. I look at it as they were very fortunate, and I don't think they'll be as lucky.
You're halfway
this
to
year.
A perfect bracket.
Right, and the defense, we know what that was last year. Here's where we part ways. I do have the Packers making the playoffs.
Okay. Good.
All right, I'm with you on the defense being a bit underrated. Obviously, they're going to have a great running game. They still got Jones and Dillon. And the receivers, I like Dobbs and Watson.
Me too.
And they have a good relationship, I think, with Jordan Love. And, Coach, I think one of the things we do today, I get it because of the contractual situation, but we throw too many young quarterbacks right into the mix right away when they're not ready. And I think Jordan Love has benefited from sitting at Aaron Rodgers' feet. He looks more confident, more poised. He's obviously athletic. So I actually expect him to play well. I think the formula is good defense, strong run game, and a game manager with some athleticism who can make some plays. And at number 1, obviously, I'm with Detroit because you mentioned the offense, how great the offense was last year. They didn't, Jared Goff rarely got sacks. They don't turn the ball over, and they take the ball away. Look, but here's the thing that impressed me. They started 1-6 and finished 8-2, but look at the defense. Now, their defense last year was viewed as terrible.
They were
but
terrible.
over the last 10 games, they gave up 20 points a game. You can live with that if you have one of the top offenses in the league. So I think the defense, Aiden Hutchinson is great. I think they'll get better. I'm not saying they'll be a top 5, one of the 12 top 5 defenses, but they'll be better, and the offense is strong.
They might be top 20. Coach, let's dig in on the Packers. I think the Packers are going to the playoffs mostly because they are no longer hamstrung by a quarterback who could not throw the ball down the field. Here's the statistic. LaFleur loved to throw the ball down the field. Second, tied for fourth, second. But if you see that little yellow line, I'll read it to you. Rodgers was 6 for 40. 15%, was second worst in the NFL at throwing the ball down the field. I think Jordan Love will be able to air it out, and LaFleur can get back to playing the style of football he wants to play. How do you feel about the Packers this year?
You know, when I became a head coach, I wish I had a 2-time MVP my first 2 seasons. That would have been a really nice, nice treat. And, look, again, I feel good because I disagree with Nick on almost everything he said. He's going to kill the Bears because it's a trendy pick, but yet he's going to pick the trendy Detroit Lions to make the playoffs. So we're going to hate trendy, but we're going to like trendy. even though the Bears added multiple really good offensive players, outstanding offensive players, a rookie first-round tackle, 2 really good defenders, but whatever. The Bears, I guess,
The Bears are not going to be good, Coach. You don't even think they're going to be good.
Justin Fields improved in every offensive category, but again, they'll be terrible. And then Detroit, I get it. They had a great end of the season. Everybody loves them, but they were terrible to start the season. And now they have to deal with expectations. They have to deal with success, all of those things. But let's get to Green Bay. Green Bay, I liked what Jordan Love did all preseason. I thought he looked in control. I thought he looked poised. There was a lot of encouraging things. But when Aaron Rodgers took over for Brett Favre, there was a transition that took place, and there's a learning curve that goes from sitting on the bench to being a starter, and I don't see him being able to do enough to get them into the playoffs. And if anything, they'll probably be sitting down, much lower in that division, maybe even the bottom of the division.
So you have Vikings number 1 or process of elimination?
Well, I mean, we're going to kill the Vikings too because they won a bunch of games by being resilient. Like, let's kill the team that finds a way to win.
I killed the Bears. They had the worst record in football. You got mad at me. I killed the Vikings.
The Vikings have continuity. They've got continuity in coaching. They've got continuity in quarterback. They win close games, but they're terrible.
Also, just throw it up to Justin Jefferson.
He's pretty good.
Just throw it up.
I love Justin Jefferson, 3rd place team. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.